7 of Vlogmas. So today's color is this gorgeous gold, some brown speckling, super pretty. I love this color. And it is called Anne of Cleves. It is gonna look so cool going into my blanket. Today we need some bread, so I'm gonna make some bread today. And I thought I would give you my recipe for just plain sandwich bread. It's something that I've worked on throughout the years, so super simple, makes 2 loaves. And yeah, so to start off, we're gonna need 2.5 cups of warm water. And then we're gonna need 1 cup of whole wheat flour. And then 1 cup of all-purpose flour. Something to stir with. I seem to have forgotten. It's best to have something to stir with. Just so it creates like a good base for our yeast. Get going on. Okay, and then we're gonna need 1/4 cup of honey. But I learned this little trick to how you can get all of your honey out of your cup easy. So we're actually gonna do our oil first. So 1/2 cup of oil. So I'm just gonna use my 1/4 cup twice. This is just olive oil. 1, 2, and then don't scrape it. We'll add our 1/4 cup of honey. And it all comes out because of the oil. It slides right out. And it takes the rest of the oil with it. There we go. Kind of mix that in. All right. Now we've got our sweetener in there and our yeast in there. That will be a perfect little place to add in our yeast. Test it out. Oh yeah, nice and warm. Make sure you have clean hands, because that's important when baking. Need 1 tablespoon of yeast. I always add just a little bit of a small extra dash for luck. mix that in. It's a little bit different than when you would put, like, say, just your water and your sugar and your yeast together and let it proof. This, we don't do that. So now, what we're gonna do to this is we're gonna add about 5 more cups of flour. You can choose either to do it all-purpose or all whole wheat. If using all whole wheat, I recommend using only 4 cups because whole wheat sucks up moisture a lot more than all-purpose flour does. So you want just a little bit less because you want this to still be a little bit soft. And oh, this recipe right in front here. Teaspoon of salt. Sometimes I even forget my own recipe. So I just got a half teaspoon because I couldn't find a whole one. There we go. So you're just gonna add your flours in slowly. I do about 1 more cup of whole wheat and then I will slowly work in my other 4 cups of all-purpose. Sometimes you don't need all the cups. You just want to work it until it doesn't stick to you. And I will show you in just a sec. Okay, so I am 3 cups in and we got a good dough forming. It's still very soft and still quite sticky, but I'm going to add my next cup and start working it on the table. And this is where an apron is very important to have. Oh dear. Because messes are made with bread. That's the fun part. So yeah, we're just gonna add it all. And this is probably a very unconventional way of making bread, but I've found that it's the best way for you to get that gluten really well worked and your bread gets a nice structure to it. And so I'm just gonna be slowly working in my 4th cup. And looking at this, I don't think I'm gonna need my 5th cup. This recipe really just depends on what you think the bread needs. Pun not intended, because I'm kneading right now. But you gotta just let the bread become what it wants to be. It sounds like some sort of motivational story, but yeah, so I'm just gonna work in this last cup here and then I'll know if it needs the 5th cup of flour or not. So the bread is still a little bit sticky, so I'm gonna work in the last cup of flour gradually. So I might not even need the whole cup, but I'm just gonna add it in slowly, give it a good layer of flour to work with. And just keep kneading until it has no flour and stops sticking to you. Okay, so it's all good now. It's not sticking and it's got a little bit of bounce back. As you can see, we don't want it gonna be like totally stiff because that'd be too much. And I only needed like a little bit of the cup 5 of flour. So now that it's all worked and all wonderful. We're gonna put it in a little greased bowl. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of olive oil to it to rise. Actually, I just use the bread to spread the oil around. It's multi-purposeful. And we'll put a little plastic wrap on this and let it rise for half an hour. And apparently making a mess is required of baking. I will clean this up while that rises. Okay, so here's the loaf after half an hour, or loaves. It is big and fluffy, and we're gonna separate this into 2 loaf pans. So these are these are non-stick Gotham steel pans, so I don't have to grease them. I'm just gonna split this in half, just by eye. It doesn't have to be exact, and then tuck it to be this little log. Nice and comfy in there. I just use my fingers to pinch it underneath. And let's take a little bit of this guy and add him to the other. And there we go. So we will cover these up with plastic wrap again and let them rise for 1 more hour. Okay, so it's been an hour and holy smokes, they have risen and combined. Okay, so we're gonna take the plastic off these. Oh dear. There we go. And trying to do this very gently so it doesn't move too much air. There we go. Now leave those in there and turn the oven on to 350. And we're gonna bake those for 45 minutes. Hello, so the bread was, I'd say, semi-successful. It rose for too long, and so the structure, when I had peeled that plastic wrap away, it was just like, not too much though. It still had a great crumb, and my mom and I had gone out to go get some water in like the big jugs. And we come back and half a loaf is already gone. So it was successful in that way. But I wanted to, whoops, making a mess. Never mind that. But I wanted to share this poem that I have on the front of my cooking binder. It's filled with like all the recipes I've collected over the years. And this poem just makes me smile every time because bread is a challenge sometimes, whether you've been making bread for a really long time or you're just beginning. Sometimes bread just doesn't work out. But the amazing thing about carbs in general is that no matter what, it's still really good. And there's no shame if it doesn't work. So this poem is by an unknown author, but it is called The Young Bride. And it goes like this. Not a sound was heard, not a body stirred, as my load to the garden I hurried. Not an eye was there to peep or stare at the grave where my burden was buried. I buried it deeply at the dead of night. In the glare of the moon I went creeping. There was ne'er a snore as I opened the door, for the rest of the family were sleeping. My face was bright with great delight as I stealthily crawled back to bed. Not a soul would know of the wasted dough. I had buried my first batch of bread. And I hope that brings you a laugh as much as it has me. And yeah, so I'm just gonna have a chill evening, and I will see you tomorrow, dear friends.